And get ready to join us as we explore the history of our past in another riveting episode of our video series Canal Days with Robert Camus. Founder of the Historical Tours of Greater Holyoke, Robert guides you through the historic treasures of the Connecticut River Valley. From canals, cemeteries, churches, and beyond, experience landmarks and their stories that are the foundations of Massachusetts' rich history. Visit holyokecanaltour.org for more details, book private tours, and watch the entire Canal Days series and podcast series. Get comfy and enjoy the personal tour right from your screen in today's episode of the Sacred Heart Church campus in Springfield, Massachusetts.
All right, today we're going to walk over the campus. We already did part one, which is a video of the church and the gravestone itself. So here you can see the back where the sacristy is, and it's a beautiful brown stone, like I already covered. It has a spire here, probably for a chimney. So it's all very well done. You can see the very beautiful slate up there. Right? And it's a Gothic revival church, you can tell all the way through. Now in the back here, it was a gravestone. We already covered that, and a lot of statues outside. It fronts onto Chestnut Street. But here is a Victorian home called a Second Empire home, architectural style. And it was built 1872, a year before the church actually came in. And it was owned by a private individual, but the church would take over by a purchase this home and turn it into their rectory. The first rectory was right where they put the latter addition of the convent. All right, they put an old convent there, and then this new convent went to place. So we'll walk up to that. So the rectory is the second one, and it's still used as a rectory and administration center. It's very nicely kept, and it was used after the first pastor died. So about late 1880s, they took this one over. And this is on Everett Street. Now Everett Street's very important because in this area here you have a parking lot, but there were two schools here, and the original church was in this location too. So parishioners would have come up Everett Street off of Chestnut, and they would have been here since 1874. There would have been school, church, both functions. So for the first 3 years, it was only one function, that was a church. It was called the Sacred Heart Chapel. And then they converted it 3 years later, so in the year 1877, into the ground floor being a church, but the top floor was a girls' school in the beginning. And then it changed, of course, with time, and it grew and grew. And in 1897, I believe, the church was finally ready. It had taken a long time to build. And so the church chapel was no longer needed. They've had it for full school. Now, in 1925, they built themselves a new school, and that too is gone. So the first rectory is gone, but the second rectory is here. The first church is gone, but the second one is here. The first school is gone, and the school they built right in place of that, took it down, was also removed. That was in 1925, they put it in. And what they did is they put their cross and their cornerstone for the school on the entrance that's on this other road here. Here you see the cross that was part of the school, but more importantly, they took out a cornerstone, and it says right in 1925. All right, and this was the cornerstone for the second school itself. All right, so the next component of any Catholic church campus is a convent, and we'll walk out to the second convent. So the first convent was built in this location where this modern building is, the second convent, and that first convent was taken out, and they had built that around the late 1870s. And they put that as the convent for a long time. It took the place of the original rectory. Okay, so the first rectory was at 35 Everett, and this first convent took its place. So this is considered the back of the convent. It has a nice porchway here, and it has statues along the sides of it. Okay, it has beautiful little statues and a nice walkway going through here. But we want to walk through here. Front left, when you look into the front of it, is a nun's chapel. And there was an extension to the nun's chapel and to the whole building. So you can see an addition right here in the front. So the nun's chapel is smaller, but they made it a lot larger. Okay, so this was the position of the first rectory, then the first convent, and then this larger second convent was put into place. All right. So it was a nice campus, and the cornerstone on this nun's convent says 1953. It's right in the bottom right corner here. You can see that there. All right, so we'll walk now to the rectory and walk around its front so that you see all the components of it. And this is the churchyard. The larger churchyard, the more pleasant churchyard, is where James McDermott, the founder of Sacred Heart and the first pastor of Sacred Heart, is buried. And you get to see the gorgeous Sacred Heart church itself much better. There's so many little components on it that make it quite beautiful. And now you can see the beautiful brownstone of the church. They have beautiful trees starting to blossom. And remember to look at part 1 of this set, because it covered the side where Stafford Street is of the Sacred Heart. It came out to the front here and covered the beautiful doors. And it's quite gorgeous, to say the least. And then we ran around the side and we went into the courtyard. And in the courtyard, in the churchyard, is the gravestone of James McDermott. And James, again, was the first pastor. Okay, and as always, remember to look at the webpage for this particular church. And I have a lot of pictures there. A link to James McDermott's Find a Grave page. And it'll describe the history of the rest of the campus, convents, schools, chapel, and the rectory itself. So thank you very much for coming along.